Do not fear them. Do not fear any of them. On the 20th of November 2003, James Ignatius O'Rourke McMahon was elected councillor for the Failsworth East Ward of Oldham. Deeply ambitious, he ruthlessly rose to power, and by 2011, he was already leader of the council. In 2015, exploiting a Labour Party loophole, he became MP for Oldham West and Royton. If only the people of the town knew then what they now know. Do not fear them. Do not fear any of them.
Good evening. This is Raj Amir. This is the Recusant Nine Transmission, and we'll just start, I think, with picking up from what was essentially an emergency transmission on Wednesday night. Debbie Barrett Cole came on. Debbie has had to flee from her hometown following the incitement to violence against her. The incitement came from the actions of the council, the actions of Sean Fielding, Jim McMahon, Arooj Shah, and Councillor Shahid Mushtaq. The police failed to intervene on behalf of Debbie. Instead, the police, within hours of Debbie lawfully protesting, were knocking on her doors, telling her not to do something again, even though she was lawfully and legally allowed to protest. And predictably, what we then saw was who controls the police in this town, and who the police will come out and act on behalf of, even if you aren't breaking the law. So we're meant to be a democracy. We're meant to have a freedom of speech and the right to protest and the right to a political opinion and express our dissatisfaction with our elected leaders in a lawful way. But unfortunately, in this town, all dissent is attacked. It's attacked by Sean Fielding, it's attacked by Jim McMahon, and they are a law unto themselves. They are actually above that. They are tyrants. And we saw the tyranny with a woman of our town fleeing for her life, leaving behind everything she loves. And predictably, the council controlled local press. It didn't even make the news in any form whatsoever. With the exception of the Failsworth Independents, not a single one of the mainstream parties, Labour, Conservatives, Lib Dems, and I mean that in the context of the councillors, not a single councillor stepped forward and shared their concerns of what was taking place. And my thoughts are, through their silence, they endorse the tyranny. Every one of them, through their silence, endorse the tyranny. Yes, Lynn, it is disgraceful. They should hang their heads in shame, all of them. A politician, and that's what Debbie is. She stood as an MP. She was due to stand as a councillor. A politician in our town has been hounded out, forced to flee for her life, and nothing but silence from all of the others. And from that, I can only take one conclusion. They endorsed it. They supported it. And that's because the Proud of Oldham and Saddleworth Party and the other independents that are standing, like Failsworth Independent and even the Oldham Hearts, I'm not sure who's standing for them, but I've heard some murmurs that they've got candidates scattered across Oldham and Saddleworth as well. What's clear is that the status quo is worried and that the cosy arrangement between the Labour Party, the Lib Dems and the Conservatives is at risk. What you have in Oldham is the Labour Party that control most of the town, and retreated to Shaw and Crompton are the Lib Dems, and retreated to Saddleworth are the Conservatives. And that's the arrangement. Now, we're not happy with that. No one here is happy with that. What we want to see is our town governed for the benefit of all of its citizens. No one wants to retreat into a silo in Shaw and Crompton or retreat into a silo in Saddleworth. We want to improve all of the town. And I think that's clearly what these independents are doing, and they're inexperienced. They're politically naive. They have many things stacked against them. But what cannot be denied is their courage, is their tenacity, and their desire to make our town a better place for every one of us. So it doesn't surprise me that one of their leading candidates has had to flee for her life. It doesn't surprise me that the Labour Party and the politicians involved in the Labour Party are responsible for what's took place to Debbie. And it doesn't surprise me that the other political parties kept quiet, thereby endorsing what took place. And it shouldn't surprise anyone that our local democracy reporter or her mate from the Manchester Evening News have kept looking elsewhere, pretending this isn't taking place in our town. Yes, Mark, they do see the independents as a threat, Mark, hence the pressure. And the reason they see the independents as a threat is because we, and I class myself as one of the independents, we scare them. We scare them by standing up to them and saying enough is enough. We're not going to fall for your divisive, racist policies anymore. We're not going to sit silently whilst the buildings that we own, our community assets, are sold in exchange for the cartel-controlled block vote that delivers thousands of votes for both Debbie Abrahams and Jim McMahon. We're not going to remain silent whilst our community facilities are closed, whilst the things we want to see money spent on is ignored, and the officers award themselves more and more generous pay rises and hire more and more press officers and other useless staff at hundreds of thousands of pounds, and then turn around and tell us there's no money for the things that the communities want. It's all the Tory government's fault. But we can just go and hire 2 new press officers for £100,000 or more. And every time we submit freedom of information requests, like the freedom of information request asking a simple question, such as how much of our money is used to fund the local press, a refusal to answer that. No, we've had enough. The people of this town have had enough. And I fully expect to see, except in the cartel-controlled areas, of course, but in the others, I fully expect to see 1 or 2 or maybe even more fresh, independent, powerful voices of the community emerge to stand up to these tyrants in the town hall. And I do have a vested interest. And my agreement with every one of these that I've supported is a simple one. I don't want a job. I don't want your money. I don't want you to fund any project that I'm involved in. I want you to push for an independent inquiry into the grooming and gang rape of children in our town. I know you're heartbroken, Debbie, and hopefully, you can return sooner rather than later. Hopefully, Debbie, you can be back home. Absolutely, Gary. We've got to stop our town from disintegrating further than it already has. An Ali Akbar special. Ali Akbar is a bit like Oldham. I don't know who Ali Akbar is, actually. But he sends me lovely, lovely cartoons. This is his latest. That, ladies and gentlemen, it's not an artist's impression, but it's a cartoonist impression. That is the height of the toxic tower. The height of the civic centre. The height of the civic centre. Can you imagine that? And in all the publicity, they made reference to it as a recycling hub. They talked about, they did artist impressions with grass and green little shrubs outside what looked like a little factory. The council played along. There's the self-declared bootlegger, Barrelgate, Bashforth, didn't have a word of criticism until we raised it. And now the battle lines are being drawn within the Labour Party, but it's all a scam. Let me bring you up to speed. The Royton councillors, Barrelgate Bashforth, and his mates, fearing the adverse effect it will have on their votes, have come out and said they can't support it. And they've gone to Jim McMahon, who supported them, because Jim McMahon, remember, is an MP for Royton as well. So they'll have 5 or 6 Labour councillors who live within or represent people within the area, and they're playing a game with you because there's over 40 Labour councillors. So if the 6 say no, if the 4 Tories say no, and the 5 or 6 Lib Dems say no, you don't even get to 20 of the 60. Sean Fielding wants it because his mate Andy Burnham wants it. Arooj Shah wants it because she has political aspirations. Abdul Jabbar wants it because he sees the financial value this brings to the town, apparently. Who cares if your children breathe in toxic fumes? One of the key issues this election, which is only a couple of months away now, has to be fought on. And it's entirely up to you all who listen to this to make this happen. Has got to be no to the toxic tower. No to a tower the height of the civic centre that for decades will pump poisonous gases into our local atmosphere. Don't believe any of the nonsense of these are the types of factories that are being used in Denmark. Go and have a look at the official paperwork, the official documents in Denmark. They are closing these types of factories down because of the pollution. They're not opening more of them. If another country has done this and failed or recognised the damage it causes, should we not just not do it? But no, this is to do with rebranding the town. We are to be the dumping ground of Greater Manchester. Our town is to be the rubbish tip. where thousands of heavy goods vehicles come up and down our streets, finding their way to the toxic factory to dump wagon loads of plastic. And they don't want you to talk about it, because they just want you to believe the nonsense that because Jim McMahon has said no, he doesn't even vote on it. He's an MP, for crying out loud. I'm not sure Debbie Abrams has found a way here yet. But the 4 or 5 Labour Party councillors who are just mumbling away now, Bashforth and his mates, no, they're playing games with us all. So when they come knocking on your door, well, they won't knock on the door with COVID, will they? But you need to raise it. You need to raise it with every politician in every space. Ask them outright, do they support the toxic tower? It's a yes or a no. Stuff the jobs that are created. I don't care. Do any of you? When our children are breathing in poisonous gases and you want to talk to me about jobs? They should bring their own children or their own grandchildren and put them next to the place and say, there you go, mate. How many jobs was that? Whilst your own family members inhale the poisonous gases. Thank you, and I didn't have the figures, but thank you for that. 12 closed down in Denmark. There you go. They take us for fools. I was talking to a friend of mine earlier who phoned me up to see how I was. She's moved, but she grew up in Oldham. And many years ago, we took a group of young people to the United States. We were in New York on some work after 9/11. And I remember a couple of things. One I remember is how cold it was. It was just the coldest I'd ever been. It was February, and it was I couldn't believe I was going through whatever that is. It Times Square, and there was a cowboy playing the guitar, obviously for the tourists, with nothing other than a pair of white shorts on. And I was looking at him thinking, I had every layer going. We had hot water. We were carrying hot water bottles, but that was one of the memories. But the other memory I had, which is more of a serious one really, was we met a youth group in Brooklyn. We went to meet with some young people in Brooklyn, and they'd been campaigning. They'd been campaigning against those pylons. And what they were doing in the States and around New York is in all the poor neighborhoods for decades, they'd been putting the pylons or anything poisonous, anything to do with the recycling, anything that was environmentally damaging went in the poor neighborhoods. People's life expectancy had shortened, the cancer rates had increased. All of those health inequalities were evident. And this is what our own councillors want for us in our own town. Our own councillors want this for our own people. Explain that. Someone explain that, the reasoning behind that. Jeremy MT Sutcliffe. I genuinely despise very few people. But that man is a disgrace to this town. He's actually Jim McMahon's agent, or was Jim McMahon's agent, as well as being a councillor. He's a disgraceful man. He's one of those blind cheerleaders that you just want to grab hold of and shake. He goes knock it. So this is what the Labour Party do with him, by the way. The Labour Party send him out in the Asian areas to knock on the white houses to get the white vote out for the Asian Labour candidates. So that's what the Labour Party do in Coldest with Jeremy MT Sutcliffe and Werner. They send him out to target the elderly white vote. Who's playing the race card? So yes, the toxic tower will be one of the key issues on which this election is being fought. And I don't care if you decide to vote Tory or Lib Dem or even Labour. What I do care is that the person you vote for, you get assurances from them on Facebook, on Twitter, email them. Ask them a simple question. Will you vote for or against the building of a chimney, the height of the civic centre, that will pump out poisonous gases? Are we not worth more than that? Are you not worth more than that? Are your children not worth more than that? Since when did we become Andy Burnham's dustbin? I just don't get it, Mark. I really don't get it. Professing to be the cleanest borough in the country. It's like they live in a parallel universe to the rest of us. They want to destroy the green belt, which is the second issue for this town. Is, do the councillors support Andy Burnham, and again it's Andy Burnham, the Greater Manchester Spatial Framework version 2? Stockport did this and told Burnham to do one, even though on paper they were a net gain. They benefited. They were building fewer houses than required in Stockport as a consequence of the arrangement they had. But even then, they told Burnham to do one. But Sean Fielding immediately said, it's not just about Oldham. Listen, you numpty. It is just about Oldham. You're elected to represent Oldham. Oh, I forgot. You want to be MP like your mate Jim McMahon. You want to move up that political ladder. You want to use my town and my people as a stepping stone. So what if you destroyed our green belt? Chop down 1,000 trees there. Destroy some wild land over here, there, somewhere else. Of course, the facts are really simple here. The houses they will build in destroying our green belt will be so astronomically priced, the people in our town who need houses won't be able to afford to live in them. So why is he doing that? All about the council tax. All about giving his boys more pay rises. All about hiring a couple more ladies to do press for him. Some of the worst council tax, highest council tax in the country. And it's still not enough. David, I watched with interest something play out this week. And I rarely post on pages, on other pages, which is why I created my own page. And I know I do share on Proud of Oldham, clearly, and Oldham Together, because I see them as my pages as well. These are my friends who created these pages, and I support them in the same way they support me. But you'll see me rarely posting on other sort of community news pages. And there was some Crime Watch or Oldham or something page that Yvonne Eric, I think, put it up. Yvonne, I'm not sure if you joined us today. I've not seen your name up here yet, but you are a member, so hopefully you'll won't mind me sharing this. So Yvonne posted the video of the transmission with Debbie Cole. Now, there was nothing inaccurate. It was all factual, and it was linked to Irish Jimmy being a criminal, and the post he'd put up and his support he'd had from Jim McMahon, and how Debbie had to flee. None of that is up for dispute. It's testimony from Debbie herself. And we shared the evidence. We shared all the Facebook posts and the links between Dale Cregan's getaway driver, who butchered an Oldham policewoman, and the MP for Oldham. Because if that was untrue, one, you'd not have seen it in the Facebook post, the way they engage and encourage each other. I'd have been arrested by now for coming up with something malicious. So we know of the connection there. Indeed, Arooj Shah stood up in the council chamber and declared her loyalty to him, to which she got a standing ovation from Sean Fielding and all the others in the Labour Party. And then the gangster, being the gangster, took to Facebook afterwards and identified a number of councillors who he threatened because they weren't clapping with the suitable level of vigour. It's like something out of some despot movie where you're wheeled out and you've got to clap really loud. And if you don't clap, spotters notice you in the crowd. And then you disappear in the night. And that post, even though one of our supporters on here is a mod on that page, was reported and reported and reported, and it was eventually removed. And whilst it was being reported, I had a couple of interactions with cartel gangsters and their foot soldiers who were fuming that a 20,000 or 25,000 on that page could see what was going on. They wanted to censor the news, and they succeeded in censoring the news. I mean, it stayed up for a day or so. And if you go and post on any of the I Love Chadderton, I Love Royton, I Love whatever sort of pages, don't even bother on Oldham News and Media. Oldham News and Media is run by the cartels. You will find that they control all of these pages. And they control the news. Yeah. And they control the news. Which is why, and it's failed so far, I brought to your attention how a Jewish-owned factory had been attacked, and one of the protesters who'd helped whip everything up was a prospective Labour Party candidate for Glodwick. And the consequence of me objecting to an attack on a Jewish-owned factory in Oldham was not Jim McMahon or Debbie Abrahams saying how dare a factory in our town is attacked. The consequence was McMahon reporting me to Facebook for anti-Semitism. They want to shut us down. They are tyrants. This is like something out of China or Iran or Saudi Arabia. I find most of the I Love Enter area or Crime Watch or Oldham News and whatever. Cartels. Labour Party strongholds. How is it not news that the MP of the town has a relationship with one of the most notorious gangsters this town has ever produced? How is that not news? So the thing with the boundary review is that the council have kept very quiet about it, other than give you a link to a web page on the Electoral Commission, and it's really complicated. You've got to press one link to another, and it's difficult to make sense of. And what the council have also kept from you is that they have submitted their own responses to the Boundary Commission. Now, in an open and transparent council, surely in an open and transparent council, they would be sharing with the townsfolk what their submission has been. Sometimes the parties themselves also submit. Why have they all kept it quiet? Let me show you what you have here. Place is a spreadsheet that I put together a couple of weeks ago. The wards are here, from Alexander all the way down to Werneth. They're just in alphabetical order. And I've colour-coded them purple, white, and like a green. The purple ones are essentially what I refer to as the cartel-controlled areas of Oldham. Now, for it to meet my criteria of cartel controlled, all the councillors are Labour councillors, and at least 2 of the 3 councillors are Asian. And the cartel block vote has delivered them. So Alexander, first of all, Zahid Chauhan, Shahid Mushtaq, Jenny Harrison. You'll remember Jenny Harrison, the councillor who's refusing to clarify when she finished working at Roundthorne School, because if there was an overlap, that would be electoral fraud. And it's also Jenny Harrison, the woman who wished all of her she was on Pakistani TV just before Christmas. So certainly, I've said it before and I'll keep saying it. Jenny Harrison knows full well which side her chapati's buttered on and who she is reliant on to get elected. And furthermore, Jenny Harrison stood in a election where her opposition candidate had his vote stolen. Not just anyone, the actual candidate had his vote stolen. So there's Alexandra. Coldest ward, OBA Central, Abdul Jabbar, Abdul Malik, and Ruji Shapna Surjan. Both Abdul Malik and Shapna Surjan are OBA directors. Companies House will show you OBA directors are recently retired OBA directors. Abdul Jabbar is the kingpin in Coldest. He's also the deputy leader. Medlock Vale, Muhammad Alias, Yasmin Tur, Atika Rahman. St Mary's, which is Glodick. Aftab, who's independent. Aftab beat the cartels by relying on family connections. He defeated Arooj Shah. That's how Aftab got in as an independent. But then you've got Akil and Naila. And finally, Werneth. All 3 Asian councillors, Pakistani councillors. So you can see those are the cartel areas. Column B is the current electorate. And column C is the forecast electorate. And I've colour-coded them again. At the bottom, you've got a figure that says average, 8,548. The purpose of what the Electoral Commission want to do is equal out the wards in a way where no ward is overrepresented by councillors. So if you have a look at, say, something like Royton North, it has 7,858. So the electorate is lower, and then no ward is underrepresented. So if you look at Coldust, you have 9,162. So what they want is an equal number of councillors as good as for the people in the town, which statistically makes sense. People can understand that. It makes sense statistically. But unfortunately, statistics and the reality on the ground in a town such as ours, in a racially divided town such as ours, in a cartel-controlled town such as ours, in a town where the white working classes have been disenfranchised, disempowered, and left behind, we end up having issues. Now you can see the green ones are like the wards where the figures are lower. You see it, Chadderton South, Crompton, Failsworth West, Hollingwood, Royton North, Saddleworth North and Shaw. So there'll be some jiggery-pokery going on to redraw the maps. So straight away, have a look at an overrepresented ward, which is Coldust. Coldust has a forecast of 9,162. So this is Coldust here. You remember? Cartel Central. Coldust is overrepresented with figures, and nearby we have Royton North, 7,741. Royton South, 8,197, so low again. Don't take a genius to work out what'll happen here, does it? Either a part of Coldust will be chopped off and be absorbed into a part of Royton South, or perhaps Royton North, and what you end up with is the cartel expansion into Royton. So the block vote cartel expansion will move into Royton that way. Next to it, you see Chadderton North. Now Chadderton North, cartel controlled again, 8,460 will kind of remain as it is. But then you've got Chadderton Central and Werneth. So Chadderton Central, 8,134. So the numbers are fewer. There's not enough people in Chadderton Central. What do you think they're going to do? Chadderton Central, not enough numbers. Do you see what it borders onto? Coldust, how it borders onto there? Cartel expansion into Chadderton Central. Chadderton Central also borders Werneth. Werneth is over-represented, so there's more people than councillors. So the average was 8,500. Werneth, the projection is 8,700. So it's got more people. The expansion into Chadderton Central from the cartel-controlled Werneth, and also into Chadderton South, which has 8,100. So again, under that magic 8,500. So you can see straight away the cartels will be moving into the free Chadderton wards. It's not over. Medlock Vale, 9,161. One of the highest wards in terms of numbers. Where do you think Medlock Vale's going to go? Oh, look what's next to it. Holling Wood, 7,759. So the cartel-controlled Medlock Vale will push into Holling Wood. Do you see? You've got St. Mary's and Alexander. Alexander is actually a small ward. 7,300. It's over 1,000 lower. How it got to be a ward, no one knows because it's too low. Alexander. The likelihood is it will grow to get numbers from elsewhere. So where does Alexander get numbers from? Remember, Alexander includes Holts Estate. So Alexander includes Holts Estate. Well, I know where it's going. It's going into Lees to make the numbers up there, isn't it? Can't go into St. Mary's because St. Mary's is already full. That's the Glodic. 9,500 is St. Mary's. Oh, you're wondering what's happening to St. Mary's. So St. Mary's is Glodic here. Let me do a bit more. Have a bit more here, Alexander. Let's chop a bit of Lees off. Look what St. Mary's borders. St. James's. St. James's is lower. Waterhead safe, 8,600, so that's bang average. St. James's is lower. We'll have a bit of St. James. Durka. Likelihood of Durka moving into St. James's, into St. Mary's ward, into the same representation as Glodic. Do you see what's taking place? This is the cartel expansion. This is the cartel expansion in our town. The council are fine with it because the cartels provide stability. There's a stability in the Labour Party vote. The stability in making sure that poverty remains the industry of the town. And the stability of being content, never holding the council to account. Ultimately, Mark, the Boundary Commission have asked for people to get back to them. And the council have just fobbed it off onto you and everyone else to make sense of. And it's almost impossible to make sense of. It's almost impossible to make sense of, Mark. It took me ages working it out. But the council should be telling you what the options are, should be sharing, should be consulting, should be engaging with the people of the town. But they haven't. And why haven't they? Because they know how you would feel if this got out. So they don't want to be seen to be responsible for the decision. For over a year, I've been sharing with you about the cartel expansion, the OBA cartel expansion into Chadderton North, all but complete. The aspirations to expand into Royton. Why do you think the council built a school, is it Oldham Academy North, in Royton, that has a student intake mainly from Coldhurst. 90% plus Muslim, 95% plus Muslim. Why do you think they built a school there? Lynn, you get the information the way you've always meant to get the information. Phone up your bloody councillor. You've got 3 of them. Tell me which ward you're in and I'll tell you now who the 3 councillors are for you. What has their submission to the Boundary Commission been regarding your ward? Yes, Debbie. What used to be Our Lady's Catholic School in Royton? Why did the council build the school in Royton where they transported the children from Coldhurst to go all the way over there? Because none of the white parents I know in Royton send their children to that school. They don't want us to know, Gary. They don't want us to be educated. They don't want us to be informed. They want us to take our medicine as and when they provide it to us. They want us to eat the scraps beneath their boots and be grateful. Waterhead Academy was part of the Building Skills for the Future programme, Gary. They built Oasis Academy, Waterhead Academy and Oldham Academy North. They were meant to be these, one of the reasons given to government at the time was community cohesion, that they needed to close all schools down and socially engineer spaces where they brought kids together. So they had Waterhead Academy built where they amalgamated Count Hill and Breeze Hill. They had Oldham Academy North built, which amalgamated nothing other than Grange and just shifted the kids from Grange there. So there was no community cohesion there. And then they had Oasis near Limeside. All 3 of them ended up in special measures. Unfortunately, whilst Jim McMahon was happy to attack me, he did not say a word about 3 huge schools. Remember, we opened a school in a derelict site that was due for demolition and tried to get it going there. These were purpose-built huge schools, Gary. All of them ended up in special measures and all of them do weird things with their exam results to try and hide the real figures. You know why they won't respond, Mark. They've been rumbled. This is one of the biggest things to happen in our town. It'll redraw the map of this town and who votes where and who is represented where and by whom. The cartels are ecstatic. They're expanding into new territory. Chadderton, Royton, Lees, St. James, Hollingwood. And where the cartels grow, the Labour Party hold iron fist. The Lib Dems aren't saying anything because they're just trying to hold on to Shaw and Crompton where their councillors are. And it looks like Shaw and Crompton will be safe. The Tories aren't saying anything because they want to hold on to Saddleworth North and Saddleworth South. And it looks like those 2 areas will be safe. If I lived in Lees, if I lived in Springhead, I'd be worried. Chadderton North is gone. Chadderton Central, Chadderton South. Well, Arooj Shah got put in Chadderton South, didn't she? She was given that seat after she became unpalatable for the Glodic community. So even the Glodic community found her unpalatable because of her brazen relationships. She had nothing to do with her being a woman. It had nothing to do with misogyny. Have a look at the other wards. Have a look at St Mary's now. They've got Asian women councillors in those places. It had nothing to do with misogyny. They'd had enough of her and her associations. And even they decided they needed to get rid of her because she brought the wrong sort of attention. Anita, we have these conversations all the time, and I'll tell you again, the shame I share with everyone else. You and me filling in forms online isn't going to change. We elect councillors. Councillors are meant to make representation on our behalf. The way this is meant to work is the council is supposed to engage with the councillors who are supposed to engage with their communities and then feed it back. Me, you, anyone else filling in these forms ain't going to change shit. They did, Anita, and I saw it and I read it and it took me hours to make sense of it. I can post anything online, but if I don't give it context and explain the ramifications, what point is it? I can't cook. It's like someone just putting a recipe online and saying, there you go. The likelihood is, I wouldn't know if it was breakfast, lunch or dinner. Never mind how to cook it. This is intentional disempowerment. A friend of mine has been asking me to do something on the boundary change for weeks. And I've held off because I'm angry. Because I know we're going to get screwed. If you live in Durka, St James's Ward, you're going to get screwed. If you live in Springhead, the chances are, or Lees, the chances are you're going to get shafted. Chaddington, forget about it. You've got not a chance in hell. Chaddington Central. Chaddington South, you're going to see Werneth expand. Or what will happen is a chunk of Werneth will be absorbed into Chaddington South. It's the same either way. Because you then have a massive cartel-controlled block vote that enters that area. Hollingwood, gone. Overspill from Werneth on one side, Medlock Vale on the other. Let's have a look. You see, Saddleworth West and Leeds is too big. Now, they might redistribute it and absorb a chunk into Saddleworth North. But you've got Alexander next to you, which is really small. That's got to go somewhere. Sorry, Anita, I'm not being rude with you or anything like that. It's not my intention. But it's a brick wall, and you don't keep banging your head up against the brick wall. What we need to do, is hold these councillors to account. Ask them, are they in favour of the toxic tower? Yes or no? Ask them, are they supporting Andy Burnham's Greater Manchester Spatial Framework version 2 that'll destroy our green belt? Yes or no? Ask them. Ask them what they think of the cartels and the expansion. They're no different to those drugs gangs you see on the TV who are fighting for new territory and expanding. They're no different. They hold us in contempt, Gary. Because the outcome of this boundary review will be the strengthening of Jim McMahon's stranglehold on this town. Oh, I've not told you that bit, have I? As well as the ward boundaries changing, the constituency boundaries for the town are going to change. You like this? Well, Debbie Abrams won't like this because she's screwed. There's something called St Mary's. St Mary's is Glodick, yeah? Glodick is going to come into the Jim McMahon's constituency. So he's got another 5,000 cartel votes. But without Glodick, Debbie Kashmir is screwed. Because that constituency is changing, or planned to change to include, goes over the hill past Shaw and Crompton and picks up the Rochdale wards that way. Yeah, Debbie, she's gone. Debbie Abrahams is gone. I've said it all along, Ian. Jim McMahon has won the election before a single polling station has opened. The cartel-controlled block postal vote, and I'll bring it up so you can see it now, because these are the Electoral Commission's own figures, yeah. Let's look at the wards where the cartels deliver votes. Chadderton North, 8,000 votes. Coldust, 9,000 votes. These are now, not what they're forecast to be. Medlock Vale, 9,000 votes. Werneth, 9,000 votes. Now you know why he concentrates on nibbling samosas in those mosques and those community centres. Once you've seen where the bloc cartel-controlled Muslim vote is concentrated, once you can see that, you know why Jim McMahon spends so much time nibbling samosas in those areas. What happened in the last election was he lost some of the white working class vote. The Brexit vote is what he lost in. And in other places where the Brexit vote went and voted somewhere else because they were completely miffed at Labour's betrayal of the democratic process. In the places, in the red wall areas where Labour kept hold of power, it did so because of the Muslim green mortar that kept those walls standing. The cartel-controlled bloc vote saved the Labour Party in those constituencies. Of course there is something you can do, Lynn. You can vote. But unfortunately, as part of the process through which the cartels grew in strength, there's still a minority. But for them to grow in strength the way they have, a parallel process took place. I wrote about it first in the first of my Welcome to Oldham Part 1, I think it was. The first one. It's still up on Medium. It's still up on the webpage. The metropolitan elite, Jim McMahon's mates, all of them are coming from Didsbury, the posh white folk who've never mixed with people like me, who've never had the lived experiences of multiculturalism, some of the negative lived experiences. These people have introduced strategies and policies for at least 30 years of which the consequence has been the disempowerment and the marginalisation of the white working class. And the consequence of that is they don't vote. They don't even know how to vote or who to vote or what difference a vote makes. And any time and every time they try to articulate themselves, they're jumped on. And the debate is made to be seem as though they're racists. And that is the issue with our town and other towns like ours, isn't it, Sarah? We are brainwashed. If we are so loyal, the working classes in our town are so loyal to the Labour Party that even if they can't bring themselves not to vote for the Labour Party, they won't go and vote for the Conservatives. You know what they do? They don't vote. They're so loyal they can't betray the Labour Party. They'd rather not vote than vote out a bunch of corrupt politicians whose only aspiration is to keep them poor, exploit them so they can progress their careers. Who does that remind you of? I think it's an appropriate time, Gary, on that for me to move on to the next bit, if I can find the scrap of paper that I... One day I'll have a £50,000 a year press officer who prepares all my speeches and content, and I can read off a teleprompter in front of me. I think I get bored at a point, and that'll be the end of it. So, Sarah, I'll just put this up. It's what I keep saying, Sarah. The only people who are going to rescue our town is ourselves. We need to stop looking for heroes from elsewhere to come and save us. And what does that say about us? That we can't save ourselves? The descendants, the working class descendants in this town, were the descendants of people who created modern day democracy as we know it. And now we don't even know how to vote. And begging others to come and save us. No, we need to grow a set. We need to stand for ourselves. Because all of these others, they just want to exploit us.